So it is winter time, December 22nd to be exact, and one of the most common questions that I get is how do you source during the winter months, when it's freezing cold outside, especially if you live in the Northeast in those cold climate areas. And one of the answers that I typically give to that question is I point people to a video that I did in which I explain to you and show you how to set up ads on Craigslist so that you can explain to people exactly what it is that you're looking for, and then you could set up based on the responses that you're getting some type of meeting in which you would then exchange money for whatever goods or do a trade or something like that. And that's a way that you could source. I will put a link to that video at the very end of this video, so if you haven't seen that, go check that one out. But there's another way that you could effectively go out and source, which is to look on third-party local apps. So the most common one to do this with is Facebook Marketplace. There are other ones like OfferUp and LetGo, and Craigslist is another one as well. But a lot of people use Facebook Marketplace. I've talked about that a lot this year in terms of a place that you could also sell stuff yourself as a reseller. And there's a lot of resellers on those platforms. It's really best for flipping a lot of big, bulky merchandise that you don't want to ship, or something that you just want to, get rid of pretty quickly and don't want to take the time to list. But it can also be a great place to go and source stuff. So I'm going to take you through a little brief tutorial in which I show you, if you're especially unfamiliar with Facebook Marketplace, in terms of how to find that on your desktop. And this is how it is currently, December 22nd, 2019. So keep in mind, things might change, and you have to search the net for that if you watch this, years in the future. And I'm also going to show you how you could find it easily on your phone. And then I'm going to take you through a deal that I made this morning at 10 o'clock. And I'm going to show you how you can, figure out whether or not this deal actually makes sense, even if it's something that you might not exactly specialize in. And that's something I've talked a lot about recently, is starting to break out into niche areas that, maybe it's not exactly your cup of tea, it's not exactly your thing, but you at least have some knowledge that it's something that can make money. So I'm going to take you through an example of that. So let me just start with the basics of Facebook Marketplace. If you're using your desktop or laptop, you're going to go to your, make sure you're in your personal page, that you're not in a group or anything like that. I'm going to expand this out. So you see here on the top, you see it says my name here. I'm not, if I was in a group like my Facebook group, Facebook Reselling Resource Center, this is not going to show up on the left tab. So you've got to make sure you're in your personal page. I'm going to expand it out here, and you want to scroll down right there, and you're going to see where it says Marketplace, and then you're going to click on that, and I'm going to show you what it would do. Now, this is a screenshot that I took. I did this for a reason, because if I have this on myself right now, all sorts of messages are going to start popping up, and I don't want to deal with having to click all those off. So I figured this would just be a way easier way to go through it. So when you click on that, so we'll just pretend that I clicked on it. I have this already. This will be an example of what would show up, and it will give you and show you a preference of items in your area. It gives you top picks, and it will tend to show you things based on what you have searched for. Now, you could browse within it. You could type anything you want to search for, and you could do all sorts of way of sorting things. You could also sell something on it as well. You would just hit the sell button, and it's very easy to list. I mean, you seriously could list something for sale in like a minute or two. It's very, very easy to do. So, you browse through, you look through, and if you want to do this on your phone, which is how I typically do it, I don't usually go on the desktop version, but if you go on your phone, the way they have it right now, they have it strategically located right down there. I'm going to show you, I'm expanding it out here, but right down in the center, and you can see it's highlighted blue, and that means these are the kind of things that it's showing me right now. So, and you just could keep scrolling down, and if you click within it, you're going to see the details of the ad. So I'm going to show you a sample ad that I saw last night, and I want to give you a little tip with this as well before I go back into it, which is when you are looking for stuff to actually source, it can be very tricky because the predominance right now on the platform are actually, at least from what I see in my area, are resellers. Now, part of this is going to depend on what size city you live in. If you live in a bigger city, you are going to have many more availabilities to you to source. Now, where I am from, I am in a relatively small city of Syracuse, New York, with a population of 143,000 people. But if you live in some place like Chicago or New York City, where there's millions of people around, then what I'm telling you here, it can be a potential gold mine for you, but you need to know how to sift through it properly. But especially if you live in a smaller area like myself, it's harder and harder to find things, because once something goes up that's high quality or that's a good thing to source, usually you've got to get on that very, very fast. And if you don't get on it fast, it's going to be gone. So one of my tips for you is to look for things that get posted late at night before people go to sleep. And that's exactly what happened in the case of what I'm going to show you here, which this one is this Pokemon carrier and toys. The carrier's here in the background. There's a bunch of toys, little figures here. I'll make it a little bigger so you can see. And then there's these carrying tins, which are typically used for cards, but you could put anything you want in it, of course. So that's just kind of included and kind of thrown in with it. But that's what I saw. We'll show the price like that. And it was posted about pretty late at night, like around 12 o'clock, so 11 or 12 o'clock. So look for things around that time frame, especially if you tend to be up. Now, this was also a screenshot of it that I took early in the morning, because that's when myself and the person who was selling this started to talk about making the deal, because that's when she woke up in the morning. So I took some screenshots when it seemed like this was going to happen. I figured maybe this would be a good video, so I wanted to make sure I got those shots. Now, the other thing I want to tell you to look out for is what you're going to see, and I don't want to put people's faces on here, so you'll just have to see when you go through it, but you will see a picture of, or whatever the icon is for the person who's selling. And in this case, it was a mom and two boys. And so you could surmise from that this is a mom trying to get rid of her kids' toys. Now, it could easily be a dad trying, and sometimes it is a dad trying to get rid of stuff. But that's one of the things that I look for, is I look for people who are not necessarily resellers who are trying to make a big flip. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes you can make a deal with another reseller, but I'm tending to look for someone who just wants to dump and run. They just want to get rid of it. They just want to make space. And it turns out, when I met up with this person, that's exactly what she wanted to do. She had all this stuff. She didn't really care. She just wanted to get a little bit of money back for what she had invested into all this. And she, as she said, she wanted to make space and make room for Christmas time. So that's one of the things that I look for. It's one of the best chances that you're going to have to make a deal, because honestly, at least where I'm from, you could tell me what it's like where you are in the comment section, but I'd say 90+% in my area are other resellers trying to flip for retail value or more. So it becomes impossible to make deals in those situations. Once in a while you can, but more often than not, this is more the type of situation that I'm looking for. So as we go through it, we see the $30 price range, and we see some other details. There's lots of these little Pokemon figures, and there's the carrying case, of course. Now, let's just say, hypothetically, and you can see it shows the inside, it's nice and clean. So she has my attention. Now, if you remember back to other videos that I have done in the past, I have gone out and I have made lots of pickups with those small little Pokemon figures, and they sell very well. That's something else. That's from one of our reseller battles in my Facebook group. But anyway, cool piece, by the way. That it was a really nice piece that was in the battle. So, but anyway, so we've got these the Pokemon carrier here, and we've got the toys. So I get distracted whenever I see anything that's Marvel related. So sorry about that. But anyway, so what we want to do is let's just imagine in this scenario that you don't really know much about Pokemon. You've heard about it. You know that, you've heard people do sell it sometimes and they can make a good profit. And you see this on Facebook Marketplace. What do you do? Okay, well, what do we know? We know that we have a carrying case there, right? So what we could just do is we could just go into eBay here, and I just shortened this down to show you, but we could just type in Pokemon figure case. You can see here right on my tab, that's exactly what I typed in. Pokemon figure case. Now, I'm saying this for a reason that you don't need to be an expert in this area to just type in Pokemon figure case. That's very simple. And what do we come across? Well, this is me looking at completed sales, both ones that sold and didn't sell. And you can see anything in green means that it's sold. So that this tells me right here that this one that has the figures in it, I'm going to enlarge it and go to the original listing, that this one, and this is just a few figures, not a lot of figures, but this one wound up selling for $30. So what does the person want for the carrying case right now and many, many more figures? Well, they want $30. So this is an initial good sign, but what I also want to know is what this would go for if it didn't have any figures in it. Give me a sense of what, worst case scenario, what would be your return on investment. So we're going to scroll down to this one here and we see $9.95, but you have to factor in the shipping, especially if you have a free shipping model. So that's the same thing as $10 plus $12.95. So that's telling you you're going to get about $23 back. If this is, what you sell is consistent with, current marketplace values. That's why we want to look for what's sold recently. And this is one that's empty, as you can see here. So this empty one sold for 23 once you factor in the shipping. And the more data that you could get that shows something like this, the more confident you can be that if you have that item, that it's not a one-off and you could sell it for about that range. So what do we see here? We have more data. Go by your data, trust your data. So right here, we've got $12.99, so that's $13 plus $7.83. So we have something that's sold for around $21. So again, that's another good sign. That's telling you that just the case alone, you should be able to get around $21, $23 out of it. So good sign right there. Now, that's not the last step though. What you also have to look at, a lot of people skip this step. And what I'm telling you here, you could use to research in other situations, but you also need to know now, what is the current marketplace in terms of literally right now? This is telling you what's sold or what didn't sell, but you need to know what your current competition is. Because if you're going to go out and buy this thing, well, then you're going to have to go list it. And you want to figure out in advance what you're going to have to price this on, or where you're going to have to price it at. You don't want to purchase it and then figure that out later. So get as much data as you can ahead of time to figure these kind of things out. And again, I did this in advance for you, but I just opened a regular eBay tab and I went to search. And when I went to search for Pokemon figure case, you could see I typed it in again. But one of the other things I'll tell you is I added one word to it, which is Tommy or Tommy. That is the company that's a famous toy company that made the case. And the reason why I typed that in is because you could see right here, it's telling you that it's made by that company. So that helps you narrow your search down a little more. So use that additional data you're getting to help save time so that you're not looking through a bunch of other figure cases that aren't related to the one you are currently looking for. Time is money. So you can see here, I added that extra word onto the tab, and the closest fit that I could get, I can't find one right now in the current marketplace that is just a blank figure case that doesn't have anything in it. So what's the the closest thing right now is a Pokemon figure case with 25 minifigures in it for $54.99 and $9.25 shipping. So that's great. That's telling me that there's opportunity out there if I go ahead and make this purchase. But I still want to know more. This is telling me about the case. Okay, the tins are just extra throw-ins and you could do stuff with the tins, but I'm mostly focused on the case, and I want to see, can I get most of my investment back or possibly all of my investment back with just the case? And the answer to that appears to be yes. So then we have to talk about, well, where's our profit going to come from? Our profit is going to come from the figures. So again, let's just say you don't know anything about the figures. We're going to type in Pokemon figure lot, and we're going to put in the same toy company here, and we're going to do a search. Now, the prices are all over the place on this, and I'm not telling you that the ones I picked up are necessarily going to sell for hundreds of dollars. But what I am telling you is if you go and you look here, like here's a layout, and this is about, I'd say approximately pretty close to the amount of vintage amount of Pokemon figures that are in here. This one does say vintage, and these are more modern, the ones that I have, so this is skewing high, but it's still useful even though it's not, sorry, I pressed the wrong button, even though it's not necessarily the same exact thing. What it is at least still telling you is a market that's out there for Pokemon related toys. So this is like, you know, best case scenario under the most ideal conditions. I know you could see something like this. This one sold for almost $300. What is the price there? $294 plus shipping. So almost $300. Okay, so we're gonna move back, and there was one above that, but there were some bigger figures in there, so I didn't really use that. But this one was $295 for 67 figures plus $14 shipping, and that one went on auction. And there were also some Nintendo figures in there too. That one went for 54 bids for $295. So that was a good sale as well. So there you could see a lot of them right there. And that's a nice one too. So you've got a couple of $300 sales right there. Scroll down a little more, and you could keep seeing a bunch of things. Here's 161 for $275. We'll keep scrolling down. And another thing you're noticing, by the way, I did not just check off that I want to see solds. I checked off completed, and that's going to give you what sold and what didn't sell. And what you're seeing is a high sell-through rate. Okay, you're seeing that these tend to sell when they are put up, these lots of Pokemon figures. Look at this. They're all green. That's telling you there is a strong market out there for this. But, you know, once in a while you'll see one that didn't sell, but then it just sold later. Like this one didn't sell for $150.99, but it later on sold for $135 plus shipping. So it's still eventually sold. So that's a very good sign. You're seeing tons and tons of green. If instead of that you're seeing lots of black, which means it didn't sell, then that's a bad sign. That's telling you it's a poor sell-through rate, and you've got to be very conservative in that situation about considering whether to make a purchase. And sometimes there might be just so much black that you might say this is just not even worth even getting into. So now you also want to be, because you want to be prepared for worst case scenario. What I'm showing you there is best case scenario. And sometimes when people are new into reselling, they just focus on, you know, the best case scenario and think that that's where they're going to flip it for. That's not the way to do it. You have got to go and you've got to assume the worst. This is how you stave off losses if something goes wrong. What if you miscalculated on the market and somehow? You've got to make sure that the investment that you're putting into it, that you could still make it back and profit even if there was some type of mess up or even if you miscalculated. So let's go to worst case scenario situations, which means, you know, you could just go type in for a Pokemon figure lot. And we'll even stay away from ones that say rare on it. But, you know, you can see here's a Pokemon, a mixed figure lot. This is the closest that I could find when sorting from lowest to highest when trying to find something that had similar to the amount of figures that I showed you in that ad. And this one was for $70. So let's say we sell the case for between $20 and $30 given the current marketplace. And let's say worst case scenario, we sold these for $70. Well, that's, you know, $100 on a $30 investment. I'll definitely take that all day. And remember, that's worst case scenario in this situation. So, you know, you could keep going through it and you could keep, you know, trying to match it up as close as possible. In these kind of situations, you're not going to find a perfect match because you're not going to find anybody that has literally this same exact thing, the same exact figures, the same exact number, all that kind of stuff. You're not going to find that. So you've got to make approximations and you've got to make estimates in that situation. But I did go out there. I met up with her. It was just, less than 10 minutes away from where I live. And here you go. You can see here, I've got the case. It was easy to pull the trigger on this one. I didn't even bother negotiating. Sometimes I will. Sometimes I just didn't bother because I felt that the deal was already good enough. And for Pokemon items, you could see how hot they are. I wanted to make sure that I grabbed it. So it depends on what the item is. If it's something that you feel is hot and you want to just get right then and there, the price is already fair. Don't lose it because you're going back negotiating when someone else, you know, is going to come in and say, all right, I'll just buy it for $30. And you can see here, I've got all the tins, and this is just one tin right there with a bunch of the different figures in there. They're already flying out of there. So there's just a ton of them. And that's just one. We've got a second one filled with the figures here. and then we've got a third one filled with figures. So I have more figures in there than anything you're seeing on those comps. So that's another thing that's crazy about it, and just made me say, you know what, the $30 is perfect. I know you see me talk a lot about negotiation and stuff, but there's a time to negotiate, and there's a time to know when you're getting an amazing deal and to just grab it. And that leads me to my last point and my last tip about Facebook Marketplace, which is when you go and you respond to somebody, or not respond, or you write to them, and you got to let them know that you're interested. So, when you see, the screen come up here, like this kind of ad, you're going to be able to press it, and there's a button on there that asks you, if you want to send some kind of response, and that's going to give you a pre-populated basically message that you could send to the person, which says, is this still available? Now, a lot of people who sell on Facebook Marketplace, they hate that. They don't like that. And a lot of people will just ignore that. So my tip to you is to not even use that, and you can just customize your own message. And so what I wrote in this case to her is I said, I made sure she knew that I live nearby. So if you live nearby, make sure you mention that, because people who are selling, they're less likely to want to deal with you if they think that you're coming from far away, because one of the problems with these local third-party apps is that there's people that won't show up. They say they're going to show, and then they leave them high and dry. And you're less likely to do that, in my experience, if you're somebody who lives pretty close. So I made sure that she knew I lived in the exact same suburb as she did. And not only that, the other thing you should add is if it's still available, I could pick it up anytime. And that's what I told her. So she said to me, yes, it's still available. What time? My response to her, to just show her, I'm totally reasonable to deal with, I said, anytime you want. You name the time, I will be there. And, of course, if you're working or something and you can't be there till after 4, then you say that. But if you're flexible, just say that. She said, sure, I'll meet you 10 o'clock. And she did the smart thing, which I would also advise many people to do, if it's possible, is to meet up at a public place. So we met up at a local gas station, parked right outside, and we just made the deal. That's it. I got a cash receipt signed, and that's it. And you can see here, I've got the items. And this is on December 22nd. There's no garage sales going on. There's no estate sales going on. There's really nothing going on. So this is a way that you can go out and grab opportunity. Now, again, just to recap on this, if you start now going through and searching, be prepared for a lot of disappointment and a lot of days where you can't find anything. I mean, there will be weeks sometimes where I cannot find the right deal. But if you keep looking and if you keep working on it, especially if you look late at night, although I have found stuff during the day, but the key is to keep checking on it periodically, keep looking, and eventually you should be able to find a deal that could work for you. So if you found some great deals on Facebook Marketplace, let me know that below. If you found this video helpful, if you've never tried it out before and now you think you're going to try it out as an avenue for sourcing, definitely let me know that. Remember, I'm going to leave this link for you right up top at the end that you could see and click on. It's one of my earlier videos where I talk about going through that Craigslist ad. So I hope you liked the video. If so, make sure you hit the like button, give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. One of my missions is to get more people who are watching this who are not subscribing to subscribe. It is very important. As subscribers increase, I can increase extra features available for people. More opportunities pop up. So especially after we get past that 10,000 mark. So super important to do that. So please help me out with that. Come by to the Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. Tons of exciting seller opportunities for everybody over there. So make sure you join and come over to my Instagram account at prime_time_treasure. I'll see you back at the next video, everyone. Take care.